Well, welcome to the Church Answers podcast. My name is Jess Rayner. I'm here with my dad, Thom Rayner.
Hey, son.
And we have another person joining us on the podcast today. We have a special guest that we are excited to have. We are going to be talking with Chris Tiny Seeley. Did I say the last name correct? Seeley?
That's correct. Yes.
All right. Just making sure I got it. And we're going to be looking forward to hearing a little bit of his story. But before we jump into it, we want to take a minute and we want to thank one of our sponsors for today's podcast. We want to thank Cheney and Associates. They are doing some amazing work by helping local churches out with their finances, with their bookkeeping. And so if you have any accounting or bookkeeping financial needs for your church, go check out Cheney and Associates. Go to CheneyAssociates.com/churchanswers. Just doing this amazing work. And so whether you're in a need for a bookkeeper, maybe your bookkeeper's retiring, maybe your finances are a mess and it's time to finally clean it up. Go talk to Steve and his team over there. They do awesome work. So go check out CheneyAssociates.com/churchanswers.
So Jess, I saw an email exchange between you and Steve Cheney. Is he just talking to you now, not to me?
I think so. Most people, when after a short time working with Church Answers, realize that's the better thing to do.
If they only knew that your mom was available, they'd be calling her.
That's right. Well, we don't want to open up the world to her. She would be inundated because everyone realized how great she is. So,
well, I just want to give a little background to this podcast.
Yeah,
we have been watching so much about what Upward is doing. And they really came across our radar as we began to see a lot of evangelistic growth in churches, which is anemic in most churches in the roughly, 360,000 Protestant churches in the United States. It's a poor number who are actually reaching people with the gospel. But we saw a correlation that if a church was doing sports ministry, there was a good possibility, not total possibility, but a good possibility that they were reaching people in the community with the gospel. Then we began to see that the most used sports ministry, the most common sports ministry, was Upward. Mm-hmm. So what we wanted to do was to find one of those churches that's reaching people through sports ministry, and specifically because we have partnered with Upward, we wanted to find out what they are doing with Upward. And Tiny serves as the children's pastor, so you are going to have a great view of a lot of what's going on in ministry. But in a little while, we'll be talking about pickleball and Upward. That'll be at another sponsor point. But my guess is your children and youth may not all be doing pickleball. They may be doing a few other things. But anyway, welcome to the podcast, Tiny.
Thank you so much.
Tell us about that name, Tiny, and because at least looking on the screen, you are not a large guy.
Well, actually, I'm in children's ministry. I'm 6'6" though, and so working with kids. And so one day I was in children's church, and I was just a volunteer at the time. And a kid came up to me and said, "Wow, you're as big as God." And so I said, "I'm not as big as God. I'm tiny compared to him," and it stuck. I've been tiny ever since.
Well, okay. Let's see. I'm about his height, Jess. He said he's 6'6".
Okay. I assume you saw that my connection didn't.
I just jumped. I jumped right in as if you weren't even there. I didn't know that we could do a podcast without you, Jess, but we figured it out.
Well, I think you have a few years of experience doing this. Okay, so 6'6". That's
Yes.
okay. All
That's
right.
the tiny.
That's
Not
the tiny part
at
yes.
all.
Yeah, and my real name is Chris, but people don't remember first names as much. If I say Tiny, they remember that very well.
It's
Yes.
memorable.
Yes.
It is. How about your family?
Family, my wife and I have been married. This will be our 25th year. We got married in 2000, so we'd remember how many years. And we have 4 kids, 2 in college, and a senior in high school and a sophomore in high school. And so all of them played Upward. I got involved in Upward as I was 22 years old, or 22 years ago. I got involved as a coach. I fussed at the referees so much they made me referee commissioner, and then I've been going up since then. So I don't fuss at referees anymore, and so I learned my lesson real quick.
I've never fussed at referees, so shame.
Oh my goodness.
Shame on you.
I could tell you stories of how many times you've fussed at referees. Fussed is a light word compared to what my dad did some of these referees. So,
Oh yeah.
yeah, you probably should say you're sorry again, even 25 years later, Dad.
I love these referees, and love means never having to say you're sorry. So I'm not going to do that.
Well, Tiny, give us a little bit, give a little bit more of where you are. What are you doing in ministry? Obviously, we talked about being a children's pastor. Tell us a little bit of what God has you doing right now.
Sure, sure. I'm at Woodbridge Baptist Church, which is on the northeast side of Houston, and we're kind of our pastor is Dr. Jeremy Evans. I'm over the children's part, but I'm also over upward basketball and volleyball, and then men's basketball, and I'm on the bowling teams, and I love sports, and I've also loved the impact it's made to the community. I've been doing men's basketball for quite a few years, even at previous locations, and seeing the impact of just, us guys, we don't sit and talk that much, but if I can push on you a little bit in basketball, then that I've earned the right to talk to you about God. I've earned the right to, let's talk a little bit. And so
in Houston, made the national championship, got beaten in the national championship. But is that your team?
Well, I love the Aggies. I went to A&M, civil engineering degree before God called me into ministry.
I'm so sorry.
But being here, I can root for the Cougars all day. I'm not an Astros fan yet. I'm a Rangers fan from the Dallas area. But they tell me I'll get there. I don't know. We'll see.
Now, did I hear you correctly? You said bowling?
We have a bowling team. Our church has had a bowling team. Actually, we have a Woodbridge Baptist Church bowling league that they've had about 20 years. And so it's been crazy. And it's more of our varsity group, which we call the 55 plus, that is out there in bowling. And I joined them this year and had a ton of fun. Just out there bowling and having a good time, because you're not bowling the whole time. You're sitting talking and building relationships.
So is it a community bowling alley, or is it yours?
It is. It's a community bowling alley. And so we meet there on Thursday nights during the fall and the spring.
I want to tell this story, and then we'll get back to Tiny. Both of y'all know Al Mohler, that name? Mm-hmm. So do you know Al Mohler's first job in ministry? Mm-hmm. Setting up bowling pins in a church. He was working for the Walnut Street Baptist Church in Louisville, Kentucky. Obviously, they were not automatically reset. And every time someone would hit those pins, he would go and run and set them up. So that's
awesome.
I don't know how much he would want me to tell that story, but it's never stopped me before. So it's not going to stop me now. Hey, Tiny, back to you. I want to hear how you have connected sports ministry and specifically Upward. I just want to hear that story and tell us some of the things that are going on there.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, Kingwood is more of an affluent area. It was developed by the oil and gas managers that came from Houston. They developed here, and so when you're in affluent communities, they feel like they've got everything financially. They may not need as much spiritually. But they're always at their kids' games. They're always invested in their kids. I came from the Dallas area previously. We do a children's event, and they're like, "Can we drop off the kids?" Great, we're in. Came down here to Houston. They're like, "We don't go for drop-off events. We want to stay there with them." And so that's been a big deal. And so they love having their kids here. But a lot of times they're at the sporting events. They're at different sporting venues, things like that. And following up on a 2013 Barna survey, it said, 64% of the people see their biggest impact from professional athletes. That's where they see their biggest impact in life, contrary to 19% from faith leaders. But 61% of those said they're okay with and favorable if a professional athlete talked about their faith. So they want to hear about faith, but from where they are in their sports. And so back then, we started sports here at Woodridge 24 years ago. Our missions pastor, Rod Wolf, started with Upward Basketball. Wanted to try and reach the community. It started small and grew from there. Had a bunch of volunteers in. Then bowling started. Then different things. You mentioned pickleball earlier. We run pickleball 4 days a week, and I'm going to run it on a Monday or Tuesday night this summer. And, it's just growing huge. But with our Upward volleyball and basketball, we see 800 different unique kids during the course of the year.
Wow.
And so what we've done is we've started tracking that. When they register, we ask them, what church do you go to? Are you a member there? Where do you frequently attend? And those that do not, we keep track of those and we follow up with them. At the start of the season, I get on stage, I talk about it, and I present a little card. Here are the things to pray about this season. Here's how many players, how many, if I've got 800 kids, well, they've got moms and dads, they've got grandparents and things like that. They're coming into our gym. It is a true mission field. But the best part about that card is on the back of that card are names of people when they said that they don't attend church anywhere, their name goes on this card. Wow. And we hand it out. I have Upward players at the back of the worship service handing them out. It's a big mission field for that. And case in point, a couple weeks ago, our pastor, when he has time on Saturdays, he stops in the games. And I said, hey, on that court over there are a couple of girls who have just started attending church. We love having them here. Their names were on the back of the Upward card. He said, oh, I already know, Tiny. I was like, I didn't tell you this. What do you mean? They're starting to attend Sunday. Have you met them already? He said, no, I have your card on my desk and I pray over it every day. Oh. There are names on that card I select every single day. And I've heard that from so many people in our church. They may not be there on game day, but they're praying for those kids. And I can take those names. I can highlight those names that are now in our seats. Over the last 12 months, we've had over 130 people start attending church on Sunday. They've made it from the Saturday morning gym to the Sunday morning worship seats.
Wait. Back up again. Give that number again. In the period.
Yeah. In the last 12 months, over 130 people. That's not just 130 families, but 130 people are now here on Sundays and attending more than once. And just they're here, they're getting involved, and they're connecting. So
a lot of church leaders fuss about sports and, we're competing with weekend sports, we're competing with Sunday sports. What you do is you joined them and you say, come to us for sports.
Yeah. It's and what they want is they want excellence, and they want a great program. They want something that is going to be done well. That's the way a lot of our families have gone to community, or they've pulled back from community because if things aren't doing well or their kid isn't getting a quality program. And so that's what we try and do. We try and do the best we can in our gym. We try and in fact, I get high schoolers to help me on logistics. On game day, I'm walking around communicating. I'm talking to people. I'm getting to know them personally and developing those relationships. So much so my kids won't even go in the grocery store with me anymore because if I make it through without talking to somebody, I'm going another round. And we're going to find somebody. I'm going in for chips and salsa, but I'm going to share Jesus if I can while I'm in there. So it's a lot of fun.
That's awesome. So you are very intentional then about making sure everyone who's in the league, everyone, whether they go to church or not go to church. So obviously there's some forms. So there's some things you're doing to be able to capture that. My biggest question is, you 130 in the past 12 months, there has to be some kind of intentionality that you're doing during the leagues besides just building connections. Like what are some key things you're doing? Because I'm thinking if I'm a pastor and I begin a sports ministry, a sports outreach program, how do I make sure I capitalize? Because I feel like a lot of pastors do that. They create events or they create ministries, but they don't actually capitalize to get them into church. So what are some of those things you're doing to move them from, to use your words, Saturday morning to Sunday morning?
Sure. One of the other questions on our registration is, would you like to know more about Woodbridge? Okay. And, sometimes when we sign up for something, if a company asks us that, we're going to say yes, just out of courtesy. I love that courtesy because it gives us a chance to reach out to them. And so what we do, Anna Tunstall is great in our office, and she takes that and divides it. She doesn't have me contact them because they've seen my face. They don't need to hear from me again. He gives it to the executive pastor or senior pastor or discipleship minister. So they're calling. It's a different avenue, a different person saying, hey, we'd like to tell you more about Woodbridge. And so it's been very intentional on that avenue. We also, if people say, well, is there really that much going on? We share our vision of this is what it is. We can all play basketball in the park. We can all do a lot of things. But if it's just about learning how to play a sport, I'm not in. We're gonna share Christ. We're gonna do a big mission field in our church. I get high schoolers doing in volleyball. Our pickleball ministry is growing so much in the mornings. I've got to take the volleyball nets down at night. Well, I don't want to be up here all night, so I get high schoolers every night. Well, as a part of that, they have to do 4 devotions every night that they're here. So 4 nights a week, I got 4 high schoolers and 11 weeks. So each high schooler does 44 devotions to a minimum 50 to 60 people every time.
That's
So
incredible.
it's a huge discipleship.
I want to hear more about your connection with Upward, because that's become that's become your organization of choice to get this going. Jess, I was talking about a lot of things are going on with Upward. One of the things that Upward is doing now, and you're going to tell us about it, is pickleball. And I kind of smiled about it when I said that. I said, surely he's not doing pickleball. Yeah, you're doing pickleball.
Oh, yes.
It's one of the fastest growing sports that you're doing. So Upward is our sponsor. But I told you at the beginning of this, Tiny, that they're our sponsor because we sought them out, because we saw churches like yours that were reaching people through sports ministry, and we wanted to find out more about it. So let's shift just a little bit and get a lot of the specificity of why you connected to Upward. Maybe you can talk about the running. I think that's new with you. And you can talk about the pickleball. So having just given that sponsor part for Upward, I want you now to talk about it.
Sure. Yeah. My kids enjoyed Upward playing and growing up. I got involved as a coach 22 years ago, but all my kids played through Upward. They coached through Upward. Now, my son was coming home this last weekend from college. He's a junior in college at Stephen F. Austin. And he said, I'll be home on Saturday, Dad. What are we doing? I said, son, it's a Saturday. He said, all right, I'll be up at Upward and help you out some. I mean, their referees, their scorekeepers, they love it. Their heart, they've seen what we do up here. And they, hey, I'm in town. Can I do a devotion? Sure, why not? Let's get involved. But I love it. In fact, I've helped start with other churches here locally, just a few miles down the road, Upward basketball league in one of the churches, and another one 15 more minutes down the road, Upward volleyball league. And those are just in the last year. Just seeing, I mean, we can all do sports. We can all have open gyms. We can do those things. But if you have a way to get the kids in, have a nice quality program, great communication skills with their software that they have, and then devotion's already prepared where you're just standing, you're giving a devotion.
And all that's coming from Upward?
Yeah, it came through Upward. And this year, we and it's not surface stuff. We're telling about the miracles of Jesus at every practice this season. That's not light. Let's talk about perseverance. Let's talk about those. Let's get into what Jesus did and that kind of thing. So it's and in fact, what I do is some weeks I accidentally misplace the devotions. So my high schooler has to give a testimony or talk about there. And just as part of discipleship, they're growing. And so it's been awesome. I'm actually Upward reach out and say, hey, can you be an Upward ambassador with us? I was like, what is that? And they said, exactly what you're doing. Tell other people about the program, trying to answer questions and that kind of thing. I said, sure.
I did not realize we were interviewing an ambassador.
An ambassador.
Wow.
Can we add that? Can we add that to his title? On the screen here.
Ambassador for Upward. That is so good.
They said it paid the same as it has in previous years, so it's all good. So
yes.
But and you mentioned pickleball. We started pickleball. We started 1 day a week, and that lasted 2 days. And then we went to 2 days a week. Now we're at 4 days a week in the morning. We've got 30 or 40 people in there playing on 3 separate courts at a time. And families that work during the day were like, well, we want to play too. So this summer, I'm doing 4 hours on Tuesday nights. And then August and September, starting a pickleball league possibly. And just all kinds of different things. It's just, and they asked me, well, anytime some people come to me, well, let's start this tournament. Let's do this. First question I ask is, what is our purpose? Are we doing it just to play a game? Then I'm not in. But what is our purpose? We have a devotion every time they're together. And we make that an important part of it because we're all busy. We don't need one more thing added to our plate. But if we can talk about Jesus and share that with others along the way. We've had people from our pickleball group start coming on Sunday morning. And so it's been awesome to watch.
That is really cool. If you were talking to a church that's never done Upward, that's looking to do an intentional outreach, you with all your experience, I mean, all these different sports, bowling, I mean, goodness gracious, you're doing it all. Where would you tell them to start?
Tell them just, find what your community is passionate about. A church down the road that we started, their middle school volleyball coach, was the pastor's wife. And they had volleyball tryouts. They had 85 people come to the tryouts for 30 spots.
Wow.
And only 5 of those 85 had ever played volleyball before. And he said, I think we've got a market here. I said, I think you got a ministry here. And so they started it. They've got 65 players and doing awesome. And so just what is important to your community. And some cities are like, well, we have a great basketball program in the community. Great. Why don't you start one too? Because there are people, they may want something not as competitive, or they may want something not as cutthroat, more faith-based. And so we've been able to do that. We've had some parents that in the very beginning, when I first met them, it was not a very friendly conversation, and it didn't go so well. But over time, as they got in and got the heartbeat of Upward, they're my biggest supporters now. They're the ones talking about us at the soccer fields when we don't even do soccer, and that kind of thing.
Before Jess tells us one more time about Cheney, are you in running? Have you added running to the list of sports?
We are looking at starting running, and that happened. Someone in the church contacted me and said, we're always doing 5Ks, and we would love if someone in the church had it, because after the 5K, they give you this, and possibly a beer and things like that. We'd rather the church do it, that kind of thing. I said, well, Upward just came out with running. Let's talk later this week, and let's see about doing that this fall, because Upward Running has like a 12-week Bible study leading into a 5K. So imagine a couch to 5K that's instead of 9 weeks, 12 weeks, and you're talking about Jesus along the way.
That's incredible. That is incredible.
So it's we're even starting a fantasy football kind of a sports ministry this fall. Just us guys, we do fantasy football. So let's get together and talk about Jesus while we do it. And so just lots of fun.
Yeah.
Tiny, it's been great to hear all of these things. It's just, we could go on forever on this, and to hear what you're doing to reach people with the gospel of Christ, to hear how you're using the ministry of Upward as your partner and have for so many years. So we really appreciate you being here and giving us this time together.
Sure. Thank you.
Yeah.
Jess?
Yeah, Tiny, and maybe get just your final closing thoughts here in just a second. Maybe you could think about how you could summarize what it means to do an outreach ministry specific with sports. Just one more closing thought from you. But before we do that, we do want to thank one of our sponsors for this podcast, Cheney and Associates. We talked about them at the beginning, and we're coming back and talking about them again. They are the accounting firm for the church. And so if your church has any financial needs, make sure you go to CheneyAssociates.com/church answers. Let them know we sent you, and just get a discovery call. Just 30 minutes, see what they can do for you. You might be surprised. Doesn't matter what church size you are, doesn't matter what church budget you have. They are there to help you. That's all they do is accounting for the church. So go check out Cheney and Associates at CheneyAssociates.com/church answers. So Tiny, closing thoughts to think about sports ministry. What would you for all of our listeners out there, what would be your final thoughts for that?
Sure. You got to see it as a sports ministry. Truly, it's not a sports program. It's not something you're just doing, but what is the ministry, and are you reaching it? And even in fact, we've had, some churches, we don't have the volunteer load. Well, I don't want to have to recruit more volunteers. In basketball this year, I had 71 coaches. Only 7 of them were church members.
Wow.
But I had some of my varsity, the 55 plus, they'd pack their lunch. They'd come in and say, Tiny, I'm going to work. We're going to do some devotions tonight. And you get people from all over wanting to help, wanting to be engaged, wanting to be involved. And don't let things get in your way. Just, hey, if God's saying do it, go for it. Sports is a universal language. We all do sports or talk about it at some point.
That's awesome.
That's good.
Awesome. Well, Tiny, thank you so much again for being on the Church Answers podcast. One of our big questions is, how do we reach the community? Well, hopefully today we provide an answer for that, specifically through what you're doing in the ministry that God has called you in. So thank you so much for being with us. Thank you for listening to all our listeners out there. Give us a thumbs up, give us a like, give us a share, give us a review. Let us know how this podcast is impacting you. And so we look forward to catch you on the next episode.